Alright, hello everyone. Hopefully everything's good to go on the stream. Sorry, once again, for being a few minutes late. It's a horrible, horrible habit of mine, but I'm still here. So, welcome back to yet another Moonshire Monday. Thank you all for joining. We got a lot of folks in chat today. We got Wolf, Lexeranto, BSSMDE, Spicy Chip, Sipoofy, Lennox, hi. Thanks so much for joining. Adele, hi, welcome in. You'll notice that the chat and above my head is different than it normally is. This is like worst case scenario with the chat. So normally I use sheep chat to display all my chat, and you'll notice here that they are having technical issues today, and sheep chat is just not working. And so my backup was Mix It Up. And Mix It Up also has a chat like display that I used to use, and that's also not working. So instead, what I'm doing is I just popped out the YouTube chat thing, and it's just literally displaying it on my monitor. It's very not great, but it's gonna hold for the rest of stream, and it'll be okay. It's not gonna be that big of a deal. So thank you again for joining. Today, per the name of the stream, is I'm going to be working on some NPCs and dialogue. So the past week, I spent a lot of time making these really, really good, some really good chat boxes. Modly, hi, welcome in. And actually, I need to make sure that I don't cover up chat with my game, because it opens up and covers up chat. So what I worked on is this chat box here. So I got this little stem that pops out from it. And what's really important about these text boxes is that the size of the box completely exactly matches the text, like, space that's taking up. So it intelligently measures or calculates the exact size of each word, as well as the space in between them, and puts each word on an appropriate line to, I don't know, just fill in the box at a perfect, like, dimension that I want it to be. So it's really clever. I'm happy with how this turns out. And also, something I also wanted to make work is that the stem can point towards whatever is talking. So, like, if the player is here, it makes sense that the stem would point in this direction, but I made it so that the stem can point in any direction. Right now I have it testing where whichever direction the mouse is in, so like if I want it to be down here, it puts the stem on this side, and I can put the mouse in any position to try out this text box at like various angles, and it always is able to draw this little triangle at the perfect spot to kind of match where it's supposed to be. And part of why I was working on this is just because I'm working on new NPCs, and I just was not happy with how the old dialogue works. I don't know if it's going to work still. Oh yeah, it's just broken. It's just broken right now because I made the new dialogue system. And oh, this is gonna be really annoying. I have to make sure I don't cover up chat. It's gonna cover up chat every time I close the window and start it back up again. I'm gonna try not to restart the game too much, because that will be annoying. Hopefully sheep chat will be fixed by next week, so that we have to deal with that. We got 2 Earthbound songs in a row. Do the new text boxes account for how zoomed the screen is? Yes, that's an awesome question, and let's test that, because I haven't tested that too much, but I did test it at least once. So here it is, zoomed all the way out. So, you know what? Not as much as I was hoping it would. So what I did, this is actually kind of strange. So what I ended up doing is I made it so that the different zoom values actually changes the font size. And that's what you need to do, because when the camera is zoomed in, that doesn't change anything about the text being displayed, because this text is being drawn after the camera. Like, it looks like the camera is following this text box. It kind of looks like the text box is in the world itself, but it's actually not. It's just calculating itself to it's hard to explain this, but in the draw function, there's several sections. Excuse me, several sections. The first main one, well, actually, there's one before the camera even gets set, but most content in the game gets drawn through the camera, like this. But after all the camera stuff happens, there's some additional steps. I guess these are still part of the camera. It's draw after camera. So there's a lot of things that get drawn after the camera. Most of it involves the UI, and most of it involves text, because the UI isn't really part of the camera. It's part of just like the computer monitor. So basically you can think of it as the camera stuff is stuff that's part of the game, and the camera after, like the after camera, is stuff that's part of like the computer monitor. It's just the overlay. This is where you would put the HUD too. Like you can see here, draw HUD. This is being drawn after the camera, and if I go into the game and I need to turn the HUD back on. But yeah, this HUD is being drawn completely independent from the camera. Instead, it's just always at this position on the screen. And it's doing something similar with this text box, except it's changing the position of this text box on the screen kind of based on where in the world the camera is. It's a little bit of both. So it's a complicated process to figure that out, but I'm really happy with how this works, because now what I want to do in this stream is start making it so the different NPCs or objects are able to spawn these text boxes. Like this, what is it, this sign here. I want to make it so that when you walk up to the sign, it's going to pop up a text box that like tells you what the, what the sign is saying. So that's the current task, I'm going to say. Do I have a job because the code looks clean? Thank you. I don't have a job for a while, and I worked at Microsoft, but a little over a year ago, I quit, and now I do this full time. Can you tell you more about shaders? Yeah, sure. So the shaders take place in this, excuse me, the shaders take place in this file as well. Shaders, because how this works is like shader color. This is going to apply the color mixing for the level. Like if I go into this map here, and let's change some of these values. Shaders. So let's make it so the map is going to be a lot more red. So I'm going to bump this red value up a lot. And you can kind of see it on the left that the world is getting a lot more red. Okay, so the world is a lot more red now. It's very bright and red, or like more like pink. Yeah, this is all like pink now because I'm applying a lot of red. Sorry, the game's stuttering like crazy. But this is all through shaders, the way that I'm changing the colors of everything. But you'll notice that not everything is impacted by the shaders. The player, for example, is not changed by that color mixing at all. Even though I made the whole screen a lot more red, the player didn't change at all. And same with, it looks like the NPC didn't change. The enemies don't change. The logs changed. Yeah, that changed too. Text box doesn't change. Yeah, it looks like the enemies are completely immune. The sunflower changed. So you kind of get the idea. And the reason why I point that out is because the way you make that work is you start a shader, so this shader.color. You start the shader, and then everything after that is going to be impacted by the shader until you call love.graphics.setShader. So you can only have one shader active at a time. Is that true? I'm trying to think if is that true. I think that you can only have one shader set at a time, and that's why I have it set up this way, where I have like you're setting the shader color, and then it draws these things, and then it stops that shader so that we can draw these effects. And these effects are not impacted by the shaders at all. These just are drawn independently of the shaders. The shaders need to start back up so that we can draw the medium layers before stopping them again. You know, in retrospect, I probably shouldn't do it this way. I really should make it instead, like, I do this right now, where I'm gonna take this right here, and we're gonna go down to draw medium layers. So I can just do this here. Love.graphics.setShader. So now I don't have to worry about that process. It makes a lot more sense to keep this a little bit separated. Or does it? Because now... Yeah, yeah, it does. It does. Because it starts and stops within this one function. Sorry, I was kind of looking away for a moment. You can have one shader bound at a time. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. OS execute. Yeah, probably I'm not going to do that one. That's funny, though. So, that all being said, that I didn't even answer the question about shaders. Well, I kind of set the stage about it. So I have a few different ones. Yeah, you can only have one set at a time, but I use multiple for any given frame. So even though it sounds like, oh, you can only have one shader set at a time, that's true, but you can only have one set for any given draw section. But I could use multiple different types. So I'm sure at some point I say shaders colon multi-true light. Let's see, where do I use this? So this is used for the lighting system, like the darkness mechanic. And this shader here doesn't actually change the colors of anything. This shader, all that it does is it cuts a hole in the darkness. So if the game map is dark, then there's going to be a black overlay in front of the whole screen. And then this multi-true light shader is going to go through this screen, and it's going to find where in the game world are there light sources. And if it finds one, it's going to cut a hole in the darkness. And that's how you see through the darkness, is that it finds the light sources and it cuts a hole through it. And that's how I'm doing lighting. Except it's not a perfect circle hole. It's like a gradient, like a fade out hole, sort of. I'm noticing that my camera is like lagging like crazy. I hope that that's not showing up on stream. It probably is. I'm sorry about that. You know, something I could probably try. I've tried so many different things with the stream setup to make it a little bit smoother. But maybe if I had it connected physically again. I tried it at one point, but when I connected physically, it made my uptime or my upload speed crash. It was horrible. But maybe I had some settings wrong or something. I'm not sure. Tips for mastering a coding language, by the way. Trying to make a game but don't entirely understand Lua. Well, there's no way to really... I don't recommend mastering a language and then making a game, because you can make a game without knowing a language. In fact, I kind of say making a game is a great way to learn the language. If you don't know Lua, then try making a game with Love2D, but keep it as simple as humanly possible, right? Because you don't know how to code yet. If you don't know Lua, making a game with Love2D is kind of hard because you don't know the language. But if you say, I'm just going to make Pong, that's my example every single stream, Pong, it's so simple. You can look up the individual pieces of getting that code working and just take it one baby step at a time, and then like ramp it up over time, build it up over time. It's overwhelming when you try to jump into like a big complex project like mine, for example. Ooh, I need to get rid of this redness. It's really tempting to jump into something kind of complex. You made Pong? Awesome. Yeah, that was, I think my first Love2D game was Atari Breakout, which is a very similar game. It's basically Pong, but single player, you know. The character I made, which is a black silhouette character with antlers, large round white eyes. That sounds cool. That sounds neat. What tile set am I using? Can you get it anywhere? This tile, I mean, it's a combination of lots of different tile sets, but I will say that the vast majority of the tiles and environments that I'm using in this game come from itch.io. So I would recommend Googling it, excuse me, Google itch.io pixel art assets, and you'll find lots and lots of environments and just characters and stuff that you can use. It's really, really nice. Don't you have ideas for different games that you can't make until you finish Moonshire? Yeah, I definitely do. and I think about them. I have lots of like notebooks filled with ideas, and I go through different inspirational moments. And there have been times when like literally I felt like I was supposed to be working on Moonshire all day, but then I stopped because I just felt this wave of inspiration. What the heck? This wave of inspiration where I really wanted to like work on something new, and then I would like get out my notebook and start planning things out and maybe mock up something in Love2D or whatever. But in the end, I always come back to this because this is what I want to make. This is, I'm pretty committed. I'm pretty committed to this project at this point. How does player flash shader work? Ooh, that's a good question. I can show that because that's a pretty simple one, but it's one that is really important. So if I go to shaders, I think I called it whiteout. Yeah, whiteout. So shaders.whiteout, all it does is it's going to take the pixel that it finds. Here, I can zoom in a little bit too. Whoop! It's going to take the pixel that it finds, and as long as that pixel is fully opaque, it's going to replace that pixel with fully opaque white. And if it's not a fully opaque pixel, like it's transparent, then it's going to return nothing. It's going to return a transparent, empty pixel. So all that means is that, like, if I took a look at the player sprite, let me pull it up real quick. I'm sorry for covering up the chat. I can't do that. I'm going to pull up the player sprite real quick, and we'll play around with that to kind of better explain this. Okie doke. So if the shader gets turned on, it's going to apply that shader logic to this section of image. So it's going to look at this section of image, and it's going to go through each pixel one by one. Every pixel one by one. And it's going to apply this logic to that pixel. And that logic, again, was if that pixel is not transparent, make it white. If it is transparent, make it, like, just replace it with nothing. And all that means is that this player is just going to be completed, or excuse me, is just going to iterate through all these pixels. It's not going to do anything, but it's going to reach this pixel, and it's going to start changing each of them to white. And it's going to keep iterating down the list. And, you know, so on and so forth until the entire image is white. And that gets applied every single frame while this shader is active. And if I go over to player, it's probably in player update, I would guess. White, damaged timer. Actually, I think I called it flash timer. Flash damage, flash time. There's so much junk in this dumb game. Damaged flash time. Very cool. Actually, is that even it? No, it's just... I think it's damage flash time. Maybe it's damaged timer. I'm sorry, I'm looking away from chat for a moment, but I want to make sure I understand exactly how this code works. It's been a while since I implemented this for the player, but we can check it in player. Excuse me, I can check it in player draw. That's probably a better spot because that's where I am actually setting the shader. White out. Yeah, look. Okay, I should have come here in the first place. Stun timer. That's dumb, but the player has a stun timer value property. And whenever the player gets hit, you take damage, then this stun timer is going to be increased to like 0.1 seconds. And while that timer is ticking down, this shader is going to be set. It's going to set the whiteout shader. And then from this point on, it's going to draw everything else with that whiteout until this point in the code. And then it stops the whiteout from happening from that point onwards. So it's a little bit strange, but that way, and also, by the way, I apply that same exact logic to the mobs and the enemies. So if I go to mob draw, I bet there is, yep. Except I had a better name for it. I called it mob.timers flash. So if the flash timer on the mob is active, then we're going to apply the whiteout shader. Seeing a lot of folks in chat, I appreciate it. Morayo, Beast Ash, Drag Zap, Zaki CT, Soy Poi. Sorry, some of these names are a little bit tricky for me to pronounce. Light Foss, thank you so much for being here today. If you're just joining, I am working on the text boxes, but I got a little bit sidetracked talking about shaders because I do just love talking about shaders. Also, the game is lagging. I don't know if it's because of the stream or if it's because, you know, there's some kind of issue. I hate that text box. I need to get rid of that. One thing I also wanted to show before getting back into the text boxes is what's my favorite Pokemon? Oh, that's a hard question to answer. I'll say Ceruledge. I really like Ceruledge from this most recent generation, but other favorites are like Greninja or Lucario or Espeon, Garchomp. But what I was going to say is, before going back to the text, I wanted to show off the updated roll. So I changed the timing on the roll a little bit, and it's hard to see. It's really hard to notice, but the roll is faster. Kind of. It's this version, or even the Steam version. The roll was kind of... It was kind of short. Or sorry, it was kind of fast, and you could kind of just roll infinitely without any risk. But I made it so that the roll is faster, but it has like more cooldown frames. So you can kind of see the animation of him standing up after the roll. It's a very quick dash. So I think it helps communicate the idea that we are dodging an attack while this roll is active. Since, I don't know, it's just a quick, snappy movement. What games am I into lately? Well, so I was playing Animal Crossing, but I maxed out my house, so I had to find something different. I think I'm going to play Clair Obscure, just because I'm hearing so many good things about it. Why FPS keeps dropping? I don't know, it's kind of bad right now. Probably because I have a lot of software running on my computer right now, and I forgot to restart my computer before starting the stream. Does that mean wave dashing also has more lag? So I made sure to make sure it was still good, so let's try it. It's actually better than it was before. So wave dashing is not changed at all, actually, because the wave dash animation uses a different rolling animation. So the roll animation has those like ending frames that leave you vulnerable. And when you wave dash, you don't use those animations at all. So yeah, when you wave dash, it's like a double dodge. But you're not invincible during that time. Oh, that's another thing, Wolf, is that I think in the current version, when you're wave dashing, you're just invincible. But I fixed that. You're not invincible during a wave dash anymore. It's hard to get the timing right. It's really tough. And also, the lag is making it so much harder. I'm sorry the frame rate keeps dropping. It is really annoying. It's annoying to deal with. Is Moonshire open world? Well, I mean, in a way, yeah, but like I think people imagine open world as like open-ended, where there's not really any barriers and you can go wherever you want. And in a way, it is like that, but it's more open world like a Zelda game is open world, where it's open, but you have to explore to figure out how to get around. Can you make the signs? Sorry, can you make the signs not have the triangle so it doesn't look like it talks? Yeah. So that's one nice thing about this dialogue code. If I go up to text box, or text bubble, not text bib, text bub, text bubble 2. Okay. So there's a stem property and stem width, by the way. So this is customizable. Where, and same with like padding. A lot of these in color, I made a lot of it very customizable. Where I want to make this open source, and this will be really helpful, and I think you can make it match whatever style you're going for. You can pass in whatever font. It scales to whatever scale, you know. And so the stem, if you set the stem to 0, then it won't draw the stem. And in fact, you can set it through the arcs. If I change if I add stem equals 0, I'm pretty sure that this is going to... Sorry, it's covering up the chat again. That... Yeah, so we got rid of the stem. Oh! Look! I found out why it's lagging. It's because I'm printing stuff to the screen. Look, if I like walk around, it causes like a whole bunch of calculations to run. Oh my gosh, what a joke. Let's get rid of that. Where would that be? Print? It was something I was working on recently. Oh, here. Yeah, that's why the game was lagging, because every single frame, while a bubble was on screen, it was also printing something to the console, and that just bogs down memory or something. What are my PC specs? Nothing anything too fancy. So I just changed the graphics card from a 1080 Ti, which is kind of low end, to a 3050, which is like medium, low medium. Basically, I just needed something new. So it's still not anything too great, but it's fine. It's gonna get the job done just fine. And then I have like 32 gigs of memory and terabyte of hard drive or solid state, you know. CPU, it's an i7 at some point from like 7 years ago, so it's pretty old at this point too. Really, it would be my best interest just to buy a new computer, but you know, it costs money, and I probably should release a game first before I do that. In a shooter game, would you make an enemy slow and faster, whether he's close enough to the player or the opposite? Well, it depends, because every enemy can have their own sort of logic, and it depends on what their attacks are. Because if you had an enemy that like shoots at you from a distance, then it wouldn't make sense at all for them to run up to you and close range you with their ranged weapon. But you know, if you want the game to be easier, you could have them do that. And there's nothing wrong with having your enemies behave a little bit unrealistically in order to make the game more fun to play. So if you want your enemies to be like truly as smart as humanly possible, then yeah, sure, you would make them stay at the best possible distance. Like it's called spacing, you know, in like fighting games, where you don't want to be too close, but you don't want to be too far away. And every enemy, depending on what their attack types are, is going to have a different value for that. Did I make that sprite sheet myself in Sprite? And if yet, what application or engine would I recommend for making a sprite sheet? Well, so I made this sprite sheet in Sprite, yeah. And I just did it all manually. So you don't need an engine or some sort of software to do this. All you need is any image editor. It could be MS Paint even. That would be fine. But you just make a new file, and like if you know that... In this case, like, let's say I was making this sprite sheet again from scratch, which I will need to redo, by the way. There's some sprites in here that I'm not using anymore. There's some that I need to re-add, like the idle animation. And then there's, like, this extra row on the side, or column on the side over here that I decided to get rid of. So, if I was remaking this sprite sheet from scratch, I would take a look at this frame. This is called a frame, and the frame is 24 pixels by 24 pixels. This amount is 24 pixels by 24 pixels. And so I would say to myself, okay, I have a 24 pixel by 24 pixel frame, and there's 6 of them from left to right, and then from top to bottom, there is 8. Okay? So, then from there, we're just going to say 24 times 6 is 144. So that's going to be our width. And then 24 times 8 is 192. That's our height. And then, you know, every art software is going to have different features, of course. But this one has a grid. I'm sure most art software has a grid. Grid settings. And then you can set the width to 24 and the height to 24. And now I start constructing my sprite sheet. And then from here, this is where I like draw each sprite individually. Or, you know, what you can also do in Sprite is do it, or actually use the animation editor, where you use the individual frame-by-frame process and animate it this way by using these frames down here. And then you can export it at the end into a sprite sheet by going to File, Export Sprite Sheet, and then it compiles it all into one single big image laid out similar to this. But personally, I do like editing the sprite sheet manually like this. It feels more natural to me, but there are times when I just use the built-in animation tool, you know. It just depends. How long does it take to make a game like Hollow Knight? Extremely long. I mean, it would take a very long time. And that's assuming that this was a team of people who was very experienced. So it's a big ask to make a game that complex, but an experienced team of people that's made games before, they could do it. And Team Cherry did it. And other people are going to do it too. Yeah, check Silksong dev time and double it. That's a pretty good way of looking at it, because if it took them, Team Cherry, the team who made Hollow Knight, this is a team of people who is very good at what they do. They made one of the best games ever. And they're working on Silksong right now. And it's taking them a very, very, very long time to make it. And when we see that final product, maybe we'll say, why did it take this long? Or maybe we'll say, now I understand why it took this long. I'm not sure. I imagine we'll say, why did it take this long? But we'll also say, it's perfect. So, you know, it's probably going to be worth the wait. What I mean is that even if it's taking Team Cherry this long to make their next game, this is a team of very experienced people. That leads me to believe that making a game that complex requires extraordinary skill and patience and talent and experience to be able to do it. Am I full solo dev? Yeah, I'm full solo dev. I mean, in this project, I commissioned a few other folks to help out, but overall it is just me working on it, especially from the coding side. Let's get back to working on the text, because that's something that I actually wanted to work on. What I want to do is kind of demonstrate a whole new way of coding that I think is going to be really nice. It's the way I've been doing this new dialogue system, is making it super modular. I've been saying this in like every video, every stream, where I want all of this functionality to be modular, where I can export it to different features. And I'm taking it a step further. Opinion on Godot. I think Godot is amazing. So I haven't personally used it, but on paper, it's phenomenal because it's open source, it's 3D, it has all kinds of features, it's really, really widely used at this point. I think that Godot is a big winner at this point, but it doesn't mean that everyone should use Godot. I think that everyone should try it and see if they like it. What do I think is better, Lua or GDScript? Well, I've actually never even used GDScript, but if I was to switch to Godot, I would use GDScript and it would be fine. It would be fine. I don't know anything. In every job that I've had to use different languages, and that has never mattered. The only thing that matters is like what you're working on. Like if you're working on web development, for me personally, the language that I'm using to work on web development doesn't feel that much different. It's like some of them are a little bit more quirky than others, but at the end of the day, we're scripting things to do things, and it's gonna be hard work no matter what the language is. So I don't really think that it's that big of a deal one way or the other. It's gonna take getting used to switching from Lua to GDScript or vice versa, sure. But everyone's gonna have like their own experience getting used to that stuff. Who will release first, Silksong or GTA 6? Well, I'm hearing a lot of confidence that GTA 6 will release this year, and I have not been hearing a lot of confidence that Silksong released this year, except for the Switch 2 demonstration. The Switch 2 reveal did say that Silksong was coming out this year. Have we heard any more confirmation about that? Have we heard exactly if it's truly happening? Like, is this real or was that a mistake? Because I would have, it kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. Which college did I go to? I went to a private four-year school in my hometown. It's called Bradley University. It's nothing but see that's the thing is that I always tell people that like your school choice doesn't matter super much. And, like make sure that your school has good programs, sure, but my school's name and like the prestige of it didn't matter whatsoever. And really, I still had to teach myself a lot of the content in order to get hired. So don't fixate too much. Excuse me. Don't fixate too much on school choices. Once you're out working, people don't really care about what school you went to. In fact, like, I don't like any of my coworkers. I never asked them what school they went to, unless it was like casually as part of small talk. You know, sometimes I would ask them, but I didn't really care. Because there were people that went to prestigious universities that worked at Microsoft, and then there were people like me that went to schools that nobody's ever heard of. And then there's probably people that were working there that didn't go to college at all. I don't know. It just depends on the different role and the different organization. Have I watched Indie Cross? Indie Cross? No, I don't think so. How do I make mark appear on objects? Mark appear as objects. I think you're talking about how in Tiled, when I show one of these maps, how they are like markers. There's like these grass markers, or this is the NPC. All that it is the code iterates through every single one of these markers, and I can show you that code in load map. It literally iterates through every object in this layer, and then it calls the appropriate function. Like if it's a weapon at that point, it's going to call the weapon spawn function for that pointer. If it's a chest, it calls the chest function. Enemy, shop, transition, fire pit. There's so many different things that you can call through those pointers, and I do it a lot. So self-learning is the way to go. It depends on what your goals are, because I mean, I think that you should pursue school if you can, but don't go. I mean, it's such a nuanced question, because for me personally, going to college helped me a lot. It was very important to me getting my job. And for most people that I worked with, going to school mattered a lot. What I'm saying is that the school choice didn't matter that much. Like, it didn't matter that some people paid $200,000 for their bachelor's degree, while some others paid $30,000 for their bachelor's degree. It's expensive either way, if I'm being real. But that's just the truth of it. All it comes down to is, like, if you have a degree and then you're able to do the job. Like, a lot of these companies, they have a prerequisite that says you need a bachelor's degree in order to work here. I'm sure Microsoft is the same way. I imagine it is. I don't know that for sure. But that being said, as long as you have a bachelor's degree, it doesn't matter where it's from. As long as you are able to, like, perform the tasks well, you have experience under your belt. Because that's the other thing, is that I always say that learning in a classroom, like at school, that only gets you so far. Speaking personally, I learned like 5% of my coding skills from classrooms, and then the remaining 95% of my skills came from just making games or working on the job, because like I had my internship, I had a couple jobs after college. So those are the experiences that really helped me get better at coding. And I think those are the experiences that employers are more looking for as well. Speaking personally, I find work experience much more valuable if I was like hiring someone, for example, than someone who had a bunch of degrees, just because like you can still learn a lot of valuable things from degrees, but working experience has something else baked into it that means a lot to me, at least. And I think it means a lot to other people as well. Sorry, I need to stop rambling and stop like slurring my speech and speaking so fast. I need to get to work on this little feature. So what I wanted to do is make a new class of object and attach it to a different class of object. And this is what I mean by making things modular, is this code that I'm writing now, I want it to be applicable to as many places as possible. And I've been doing this in a new way, so I think I'm gonna put this under utilities. I'll call this proximity.lua. And the format of this is going to be similar to how I did the fire pits. So I'll go ahead and not fire pits, flame. Yeah, so this is like a standalone local object that gets returned, and I'm going to do something similar for this proximity object. When I say proximity, by the way, this just means that it's going to be checking the proximity between this object and the things around it. Oh, come on, I lost my dumb progress. I'm sorry about this. I'm going to get rid of most of the stuff. Ah, this was a waste of time. I should just, I'm gonna call this new proximity. And I'll say X, Y, and args. And I'll call it prox. And we'll put in these things. I'm going to say if not args, then args is going to be empty table. So then we can check and see if there's a radius. Well, I don't even need to do this. I can do for... it's going to get the args. Sorry that I'm focusing on this for a moment. I need to get this set up before I start reading chat again. Let's go down to prop. This definitely has something I can reference. Where is it? There it goes. I really should make a function for this as well, but that's fine. Also, I'm going to put it all in one line just to make it nice and compact. Okay. So we're not calling this flame. I'm going to get rid of this. I will add a draw function, but we don't need that either. There we go. Alright. Any Cross is an animated web series. It's a series about indie characters being teleported through a portal to a different realm. Sounds interesting. Sounds cool. What software do I use for pixel art? It's called Ace Sprite. I'm talking about the mark with the exclamation point inside. The mark with the exclamation point inside. Are you talking about this on the NPCs? If you're talking about this, then it's just like a standalone sprite that I drew. Let's see, and I'm gonna go back here. Oh, you know what? I don't even want this either. I'm just gonna leave this as an empty function for now. I really don't even want it. I'm gonna do function prox : update. And again, what the point of this function, the point of this whole proximity thing, is that I'm going to be able to attach this object to, say, a signpost. The goal is to make it so that when I walk up near the signpost, it'll pop up that text bubble, and then this prox object that I'm working on can handle the logic of detecting when something's nearby. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because I don't want to have to copy and paste all of this logic to each of the different things that check proximity of things. It makes more sense for me to make a proximity object and then just instantiate this object to whatever needs some kind of proximity check. And that's what I'm going to do here. I'll say, right now, I'm going to say to do check. How should I do this? In mob utils, I do something similar where oh, here it is. There's this logic here where it tries to get a player object, but right now there's only one player. You know, I'm not going to worry about this right now. I'm just going to leave it as a to-do. To-do, add multiplayer check. I spelled multiplayer wrong. So then I'm going to say local dist equals distance between the player and the proximity. And if dist is less than prox.radius, then that's when we know that procs.state equals active. No, we're gonna say, we'll say procs.active equals true. And also, really, I'm gonna save this dist as well, because it's possible that there's gonna be values or logic later on that could use this. Me and my friend are starting a bigger game, a pixel art RPG RTS dungeon crawler indie game. The game is going to take place in space. Any tips for new game developers? That sounds really cool. My only advice is to keep it as simple as possible at first, and you can build it up over time. But what you described sounds cool and interesting and complicated. But at the same time, I don't want you to get overwhelmed and get burnt out when you could scope the game down to like a portion of what you're planning and get that first portion done, and then add your next portion. And like if you're saying RPG, RPS, dungeon crawler, like that's a lot of different aspects, right? Of a bunch of different things going into one game. I would try to like separate these into different milestones that you could reach at a different time, because otherwise you're going to be in like development hell for a long time trying to get this game done, and you'll find that the wheels are spinning in place and you're not making much progress. How many years of experience do I have? That's a hard question to answer because I started like coding with Game Maker when I was a kid, but like I did programming classes in high school. I have a CS degree and I had a software development career for a while. So I mean, most of my adult life at least. So what I want to do, procs.dist, I'm going to keep track of procs.dist equals dist. So the proximity object is going to keep track of the last checked distance, or the closest distance at least. And if the distance is less than the checking radius, then we're going to set procs.active to true. I'm also going to say procs.active equals false. And then I'm also going to do a procs.prevState equals false. So the reason why I'm keeping a prev state, or maybe I should say prev active. So this is keeping track of the previous frame's activity status. And the reason I'm checking this is because I don't want to constantly... I'll show you in a second. We're going to check and see if procs.active is not equal to procs.prev active, then. So this is the whole point of having the prev active is... I can make this even simpler, actually. Ooh, look at this. Wow, I'm a cool little coder boy. So what this is going to do is it calculated the distance between the proximity object and the player. So it's going to give us a pixel value. Let's say it's like 64 pixels. And we're going to save the 64 to the proximity object, and then we're going to check to see, is dist, so is 64 less than the radius that we set for this proximity object? If it is, then this actually just automatically results to be true. If it's not, then this automatically results to be false. So procs.active still contains a true-false value, and then we can use it from there. So I was able to shrink all that down to one single line. It's really, really clean. And then I can say if the current value that was just calculated for active is different from the previous value that I calculated for active, then we are going to call the ping function. I'm going to make a function called ping. Function procs::ping. So ping as in like something happened, something changed. And in this case, I'm going to say if procs.parent, then procs.parent:: I'll call it proximity ping. The reason I'm having it set up like this, it's very loose. It's saying something if procs.parent. So that this is saying that if this proximity object has a parent, in this case, like the signpost or a mob, whatever I want to attach this thing to, if there is a parent, oh, actually, it's more than this. I need to verify that this function here exists, because if you try to call a function that doesn't exist, then the game crashes. So we need to verify that this function is real first. So I'm going to say, and this. So this is a cool little Lua. Oh, hydrate. Thank you so much. I do need hydrate. I'm so zoned in. Yeah, I really was. You can tell when I get into my flow state. So thank you for the hydration message. I really do need it. So this is a cool feature that you can do with Lua, where if I have a function, so I have this function called proximity ping, and when I say dot proximity ping, this is basically checking to see, does this even exist? Because if there isn't a function called proximity ping on this parent, then this is going to return nil. And if this is nil, then this if statement is not successfully true, and so it doesn't call the function. So here it's only going to call the proximity ping if a parent exists and that parent has this function. Why does the and not have syntax highlighting? I'm not sure. My guess is because there's not enough colors. I guess, or maybe you could consider it an operator. I suppose that and is a logic operator in the same way that this is a logic operator, in the same way that this is a logic operator. So I assume, yeah, same with or, and, well, equals kind of is. So I'm going to say that all the logical operators are not syntax highlighted, and that's why. What's proximity? Yeah, so let's go ahead and finish this up so I can demonstrate what this is even going to do. So basically what I have is this function prox ping. If prox.active is not equal to the previous prox.active, it's going to call ping. And this goes both ways, if it turns off or if it turns on. Someone named Chalakade just stopped in. That's strange. That actually scared me for a moment. There he is. It's the real Chalakade, I'm sure. Who's my favorite indie game creator, developer? Team Cherry and Toby Fox. I mean, those are totally some top tier ones. Absolutely. Indie game developers besides them. I'm sure I can think of plenty. Well, let's open up my my Steam page. The guy who made what is it? Binding of Isaac and Super Meat Boy. I really like him. Buckshot Roulette. This is the guy who made... what's the other game that this guy made? The really popular one. What else did this guy make? Remind me, what else did this guy make? I'll think about it, but I really like this guy's games. Oh, the Ori games, I do like those a lot. The silver play button reveal. You can see it. There it is. Yeah, I should probably make it so my camera is up a little bit higher so you can see it. Inscription, thank you. It is Inscription. I really like Inscription, and I really like Buckshot Roulette. Window blind reveal. Cade that's an interesting compliment. I'll take that as a compliment. Eric Barone, yeah, that's a good one too. Oh yeah, Stardew Valley, great. Lots of really good ones. Yeah, let's tone it down. I approve of that timeout. Did I beat Inscription? Yes, I did. I did, and I loved it. I really like Inscription. So what I need to do now, let's make sure that I can call this appropriately. So, I need to require this file. This is another thing that I do with, like, this way that I require all my files is really not great. It's kind of, strange. Age? It's 28. I know, I look a bit younger than I actually am. So this proximity is under utilities. What the heck? / utilities. And this is called proximity. does anyone else have to sing the ABC song, ABCs, whenever you have to figure out like where in the list it is? Proximity. So now that I have this file required, that means that this function here is considered a global function. If I were to go back in time, I wouldn't make these global functions. Instead, I would make a global utility table that contained all of the global functions. But yeah, I think that having it this way is okay. W chair. Oh, I know. It's so nice. So, new proximity. Now, what I want to do is I want to attach this to the signpost. And the signpost is a tree. I'm not a fan of this. I am, like, I used to defend my choice to make everything a tree, but I decided that I no longer am proud of this. I think it's dumb. I think that a sign should not be a tree. That's kind of stupid. So I'm going to have to rethink some things. But instead, what I'm going to do... yeah, I give Wolf a little bit, but even still, Wolf is very, very kind to be helping out. Tree dot proximity equals new proximity, and we're going to set it to the position of tree.x and tree.y. I'm going to squeeze this back down so we can see everything. Oh, that's so much better. So what I'm doing now is I have our sign. And the sign is going to be given a proximity object. And you give it a proximity object by calling that function new proximity. So this function right here that we just wrote. As I use Lua and used to use C#, do I prefer dynamic or static typing? I like the dynamic typing just because it makes things really flexible. But on the other hand, I do still have to check things as if they are statically typed. Let me think of an example of this. Probably mob anim, maybe? Type. I have plenty of times where I call... I want to find a really good example for what you just asked about. Something like this. This isn't the best example, but you can't compare operators, or you can't make comparisons between two different types. So if I had a string in one variable and I had a number in a number variable, then I couldn't set or do an if statement asking if they're equal because they're different types. So before you do any type like that or any comparison, you need to do a check like this. And since that's the case, it kind of defeats the purpose at times, where it's like, at this point, I might as well be using statically typed variables because I have to check to see what the type is anyway. It would be easier at this point then if I didn't have to worry about it. If I could just, like, if they are statically typed, and then I wouldn't have to check this. But then when they are statically typed, it reduces the flexibility a little bit, because then you have to account for all the different types that you could potentially use rather than just, like, making a variable that can take any type. It kind of goes both ways. Future 34, hi, welcome in. I'm scared of dynamic types. It has led to problems, that's for sure. Let's get back to proximity. Getting a lot of, like, duplicates in a row. Or not duplicates, but, like, similar vibes in a row. Yeah, this... Oh, you're talking about this. Yeah, this means not equals in Lua. So, now that I have this proximity object created, there's more to it than this. You can't just create this proximity object, because now, since I made this object be a local object, it just exists here. It just exists here. There's no other place that proximity exists. That means I have to call this update function manually on this instance manually. But not exactly manually. I just have to go down here to trees update. and I'm going to say if t.proximity, then it's going to call the proximity update. So again, it checks here, is there a proximity? And if there is, then it's calling the update for it. So now, all of this update code is being called. And let's do a little test where we just print to the screen. Proximity ping at, there you go. So let's see if we get any. So I need to take a step back because I think oh, it's not even a tree. Dude, I screwed up. Because it's not even a tree. It's not even a tree. I was wrong. This whole time, the sign was not a tree. The sign was not a tree. It was a prop. Sign. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna delete this. This is old. This is an old sign. I don't use this anymore. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's try this again. So I'm going to go back over to prop, and I'm gonna give it a proximity object. Or actually, look, I guess no, we're gonna do something like I guess we can leave it like this. So if oh, I'm sorry, the chat's covered up. I'm sorry about that. Man, I'm so sorry. I was covering up the chat for a moment. I recently got Love2D and Sublime Text to go with it. Do you have any tips? I mean, the only tip I have is to start easy and work your way up, because there are a lot of quirks to working with a framework that takes some getting used to, like the main, the load, update, draw functions and how those coordinate with each other, and just making sure you understand the fundamentals, all the different functions you need to call to make things work. It takes a lot of getting used to. The learning curve is really steep at first and it levels off, so try to keep it easy at first is all I can say. Who's my biggest who is my biggest inspiration for making Moonshire? I wouldn't say I have a specific person or creator that falls into that category. I would just say that the classic Zelda games is my biggest inspiration. So let's fix this prop issue. So when a prop has this proximity object, I'm going to change this to proximity data. Or maybe prox. I'll call it prox. I'll call it proximity. And then down here, when it spawns and it gets the stats, it's going to if prop.proximity, then okay. Puffy, please stop spamming. So going to add this here. So if the prop has a proximity value or proximity data attached to it, then it's going to create a prox object using that proximity function, and it's going to be prop.x. Yeah, .x. Okay. Oh no, this needs to change. New plan. New plan. I need to say. We'll say prop.x and prop.y, but then I need to pass the parent. We need to say parent equals prop. Is there another text editor you would recommend? I would recommend Visual Studio Code. Am I using my own engine? No, it's called Love2D. So what's happening here? Create this prox object, this new proximity. I'm passing in the current position of the prop, but I'm also passing in this parent value and passing in myself. So now the parent has a reference to the prop object itself, and that means I can call functions on it from this proximity file, which is why I'm able to call that parent colon proximity ping. So the end-to-end process is when this prox object is created, it's passed this parent, and if the parent has a proximity ping function, then it just calls it. Do I allow people to make mods of Moonshire? Not yet, but I am putting a lot of work into making it mod friendly, because when I have other people helping me with new content in the future, basically they're going to be using it as if it was a mod. They're going to be creating content in order to, or sorry, they're going to be using the mod creation software or process to make content for the game. It's going to be a really similar process. So let's go back to, let's get rid of all this tree stuff because I don't need it. Instead, I'm going to put this over in the prop. So in prop update, oh, what is this? This is stupid. We're just going to say if self.prox, then self.prox. Okay, there we go. And then I need to add in that ping thing. Prop, oops, function prop colon, proximity ping. So I'm going to say if not self.prox, then return nil because it wouldn't make sense otherwise. So that just as a reminder, this is the function that gets called from, I need to get rid of some of these. So this file here is going to call this function on the prop. So this is being called by the proximity. And also I want to pass in val, where it passes in the current state, prox.active. So then it can use this to determine whether or not it should show the text bubble or destroy the text bubble. If val, then else. And I'm going to do something like this. Trying to get into solo dev after trying web stuff. You're not good with the math. You'll be fine. I do think that you'll be fine. I mean, there is a lot of math that goes into it, and some of it is complicated, but there's a lot of tools out there that make things a lot more smooth. And I'm not just talking about AI, because I don't think that people should use AI as a crutch. But what I mean is, like, for example, when it comes to angles of things, I've talked before about, like, how do you calculate the angle of going up right? How do you calculate that angle? Or like how the torch is firing in this exact angle. How do you calculate that? And you could say that, oh, well, you have to understand the triangle, the math cosine, you know. There's that whole process. Or you could say, well, you don't have to understand it at all. You just have to understand how vectors work. And then you can use a vector library to do all the complex math yourself, or itself. It can do all the complex math for you. And then you didn't have to worry about the complex issues of it. But at the same time, understanding it gives you a big leg up when you're bug fixing, because if you don't know what the problem is, or you don't know why a problem is occurring, then it's really, really hard to fix it. And I imagine a lot of people are going to get stuck on stuff like that. That's definitely what I got stuck on the most for a while. Rooms that require keys? Nope. I think I'm going to try and go this entire game with no keys. Try to defy expectations and make a game with no keys. But back on topic, I want to see what happens when we create this text bubble. I'm going to say self.textBubble equals this. And I'm passing it this test string. And, we're gonna say self.x. And we'll say 0, and then -1, so it goes upwards. And stem 0, sure. Else, then let's get rid of the text bubble in that case. Text bubble. I think there's a destroy. Destroy. Yeah, there is. So I can call this function on the prop self.text, or I can say if self.textBubble. Yeah, perfect. Like that. So I think this is going to be called every frame. Let's call print. Time to end up global prop. Proximity 12. Oh, I accidentally left the word prop in here somewhere. Whoops. Prox, not prop. That's funny. Fourth Earthbound song. Yeah, I'm not sure what the deal with that is. So let's see. We're going to approach the sign and see what happens. Oh. Something's very wrong, that's for sure. Okay, that was bad. Something's very wrong. I don't know what that was about. Oh man, now I'm gonna have to fix this. That's okay. Let's make it so that the... Yeah, it was calling every frame. That's a problem. It's not supposed to do that. So oh, obviously, I forgot to set prev active. I never did that. So at the end of the update function, it's going to set prev active to the current value of active. Okay, that's gonna fix it. Oh, it's gonna welcome to heaven, yeah. It's gonna fix that. Okay, it didn't fix most things. Okay, we're having some problems here. A lot of problems. Okay, first we have a crash. So it says attempt to index global letter a nil value. Text 94. Okay, let's see. So in text 94, letter. Yeah, that's wrong. Yeah, that's just straight up a bug. Okay, so that took care of the crash. Then the other thing, well, there's like a million things. I don't know why the text box is so big, for one. New text bubble. Like, it's not supposed to be that big. I don't know why it's that big. Oh, the bot is mix it up. Oh, I don't know why it's doing this. So what's funny is, oh, I know why it's doing it. I know exactly, well, do I? Do I know why? Do I know why? Yeah, I do know why. It's not ideal, though. So, what's happening? The reason it's so big... The reason it's so big is because this text bubble... We're supposed to call this from outside of the camera. So at the beginning of the stream, I was talking about how there's the inside of the camera, and yeah, exactly, it's on the camera. So it's being drawn within the camera, and so it's being zoomed in too much. That's exactly what the issue is. So, and the reason why is because I think that this is being drawn through... Where is this being drawn? Yeah, so we can't draw... Yeah, look. It says, this can't exist in prop draw. It must be drawn after camera. So that means that I have to have a function... function prop after draw. Now, I'm already not liking this solution. I'm not liking this solution because this means that anytime I want something to have a text bubble, I also have to implement an after draw, and then I have to call this after draw function from a new location. That's annoying. That's very annoying. Let's at least get this working, and then we'll cross that bridge in a moment. So I'm going to put this... right here. And then in draw... so weird. I need to implement a new function down here. So I have two different after draw functions. This one iterates through every prop and calls the after draw function on the individual prop. So now I need to call this function from draw down to the very bottom. I have the after camera, and I'm gonna get rid of all of this, and I'll just comment it out for now, like that. Okay. Downloading VS Code now. Good choice. I really do like VS Code. I think it's great. Sorry for covering up the camera again. I promise next stream will be better with the chat in the corner. I'm sure that's really annoying that I keep doing that. It's just because the game opens up like that each time. Yeah, I had to do a rough workaround to get chat displayed on screen today. It was not great. If you were to make a Moonshire mod, you would change the main character of Moonshire to the Knight from Hollow Knight. That'd be really cool. That sounds neat. Do you know any great level editor software other than Tile, because it's very rough to do work with it? I mean, you could try LDTK. It's called LDTK. It's the one that is made by the Dead Cells team, and that one is fine, but they're all going to be rough if you're working with a framework, because a framework doesn't have the level editor benefits that an engine has. So if you're working with an engine like Godot or Unity, the engine is directly tied in with the level editor, while in this case, if you're using a level editor that is disconnected, and it's a separate entity from the game engine itself, then it's going to be a process that's similar to this, where you're going to have to instantiate things through like iteration. It's not going to be that clean regardless. But I wouldn't say this is horrible. It's just it's a little rough. It takes some getting used to. Thank you all so much for being here. We're getting a lot of folks in chat. So back to what I was trying. Did I re-update? Okay, yeah, it's working now. It's probably still printing. No, it's not. But what it is printing out each letter though. So let's test and see if I walk far. Okay, it deletes itself and it starts back up again. So it is working. Let's change some things though, because one, it starts up too far away. J Penguin, hi, welcome in. What's up? We're working on some text box stuff. So I made it so that there's this dist. Yeah, let's change this from dist. Oh. I don't think I'm using this. I think I hard-coded it to 64. Oh, I didn't. Did I not provide it? Maybe I didn't provide it. Proximity. Oh, I didn't. Dist equals prop.proximity.dist. So it's safe to do this, by the way. If dist is nil, that means that this whole thing here is nil, and that means that I'm passing nil in for this object, or for this parameter, and there's no harm in doing that. That's a safe thing to do. So putting this is fine, even if there is or isn't a dist value. But this is going to overwrite the default value of 64. I'm going to also change the default value to 32 because 64 is just too big. Do I use Linux? No, I do not. I broke it. Parent. Prop 212. So prop 212. Oh, I forgot a comma. Which UI library? I'm not using one. Yeah, I wrote all the UI stuff myself. So all of these UI things, this was all made specifically by me, and it's built into the game. So let's try this. Have I played Rusty Lake games? No, I've not heard of that. Okay, this looks like it's working pretty well. Now what I want to do is we're going to change the spawn position from prop.x, prop.y. What would be a good spot for this? No. This is actually fine. It's the text bubble that I need to worry about. Text bubble. So instead of self.x and self.y, I want to do plus b off or bubble off y, and then I'll say local b off or I don't want to call it boy because that's just boy. B off y equals 0, and then I'll say if self.proximity.bubble off y. Perfect. And I probably need to multiply this by scale too, time scale, because since this is being drawn outside of the camera, actually no, I don't need to multiply by scale. I don't, because it gets translated to the scale later, so I don't need to multiply by scale. That would screw it up. Make the text box smaller. Yeah, I probably will. I think that it's going to be adjusted based on how zoomed in it is, and that's something that Wolf pointed out earlier. I'll have to fix that, because I tried to do that, and I did, but it didn't turn out quite as good as I was hoping. In fact, I started showing it. Fonts. Get font scale. Maybe not. Zoom? Oh, field view, yeah. Settings.fov. So it kind of like makes this fake FOV scale value and multiplies it. So the fonts get resized anytime the scale changes, and it uses this FOV as a factor in deciding how big it should be. But I don't think my calculation here is very good. It's kind of hacky, so I need to fix it still. My best game idea in 10 seconds. Ooh, I don't really know. Just whatever Moonshire is. That's the best game idea I got, honestly. Let's make it so the offset is set. So in prop, bubble off Y equals negative 16. And then the message is going to be reading the sign. Let's make it so that it displays the message too. And in fact, if self.proximity.message, then it's only going to show the bubble if there's a message. Because if there's no message, then there's no point in showing the bubble at all. And instead of this whole hard-coded string, we're going to print the message. I'll probably have this translated at some point. Or, like, I had to run this translation code to apply the translated string to this variable. Do I have a favorite Hollow Knight character? The Knight, Hornet, and Quirrell. Probably the map guy. I like the map maker. Oh, or his wife. I like his wife. Can you marry Moonshire? Of course. Of course. There's no rules in Moonshire. Let's see. So let's see if the bubble is offset this time. Bubble off Y. Oh, whoops, I got this wrong. There we go. I like his wife. Esmeralda, I think is her name. Yay, look at that. Oh, he is Zelda. Esmeralda. What's Esmeralda from? That's probably from something else. Oh my gosh. As you can't tell, it's been a hot second since I played Hollow Knight. I really should give it another shot. I never even beat the Radiance DLC, the True Radiance. I was never able to beat that. So, let's see, what else should I do on this text box? So the sign is working, and it's pretty good. And it's able to start and stop just fine. Oh, so this is the other thing. I'm really happy that it has this like little animation where the letters pop in. It's really subtle, but I like it. Moonshire pillows, or like I would love to make plushies. That'd be fun at some point. But that probably won't come for a while. I definitely need to get rid of any prints, because they're causing some issues. So let's make sure that this works with a really long message too, because I only tried it with that small one. The character's map bugged on the map screen. Yeah, I know about that. It's fixed in this version. You have no ideas for games? I mean, in the beginning, it's okay not to have ideas for games, because I always say to keep it simple, so just a simple starting point is all you can do, because with this game, I didn't really come into this game knowing what I wanted it to be. Like, if you watch my TikToks, the game started out being very different. It started off as like a pretty traditional Zelda-like game, and then I just started finding and figuring out my own ideas and turning it into its own identity. So I wouldn't focus too much on like the ideas or like sitting down with a notepad and paper and figuring things out, because it's going to change a lot over the course of development. What's my GPU? It is NVIDIA RTX 3050. It's kind of like a middle-of-the-road one. Really, it's not that great, but it gets the job done for sure. What would Hollow Knight be best for? A movie, a TV series, or show? I don't know. I just like it as a game, because the knight is silent. It's hard to make a silent protagonist into a TV show protagonist, because normally you have talking. So I wouldn't say that Hollow Knight is really suited for anything other than a game. I really think it's perfect. I wouldn't want it to be ruined, basically, is what I'm saying. So, from here, I now kind of need to apply this same this same idea of spawning text bubbles to applying it to the mobs as well. I mean, Mario is also silent. That's true. You're right. They did make Mario talk, and I will be honest. When I heard that they were gonna make him talk with Chris Pratt's voice, I thought for sure it would be hard to listen to and I wouldn't like it. But when I saw the movie, I liked it. So it didn't really bother me. So they probably could do the same thing with Hollow Knight, but it is also, it breaks my immersion a little bit when characters that don't talk suddenly start talking. Like in Kingdom Hearts 2, they have Vivi from Final Fantasy start talking, and it's really, it's unsettling to me, if I'm being honest. What's my favorite Zelda game? It's Link's Awakening. I really like that game. So yeah, I want to do the same thing here and kind of apply it to this guy. Maybe not even that, because I want to, we might as well. I might as well do the same thing with that guy. And this is why I wanted to make it so adaptable, because now I don't have to code this same like distance calculation stuff. All I need to do is go over to NPC, and let's, just to test this out, let's make it so that all NPCs have one, even though they won't. NPC dot proximity equals So let's go ahead and give him 1. And then down in update, we're going to say if self dot proximity, and that updates. And then finally, I need to add a new draw. So here's the regular draw, and now I need to make a different one. Function NPC after draw, which again, I don't like this. I really should do this a different way. Some kind of like global storage that keeps track of all the current text bubbles. That's still kind of strange. What game engine can I recommend for a new game developer, Unity or Godot? Either are fine. I would recommend trying out anything that you can get your hands on and just give it a shot. If you're looking for recommendations, my favorite to recommend for newcomers is Game Maker, because it has this drag and drop coding style that's really approachable, and I like it a lot. That's what I started with when I was a kid. But these days, yeah, Godot is really popular. Unity is really popular. There's no going wrong. Just try out whichever ones you like. And over in draw, we're gonna do an NPCs after draw. But again, I don't like that I have to do this. Oh, I already have this. I already have an after draw. That's kind of funny. In that case, I can just call. There we go. Where did I learn to code? I learned coding fundamentals from Game Maker. I had this book that taught me Game Maker, and that taught me the fundamentals. But I took a coding class in high school, and then I have a CS degree from college, and I did a lot of jobs, and I have a software degree. Or sorry, I had a software career. So all that stuff kind of combined. So here I want to do the same thing where it spawns a text bubble whenever the proximity ping happens, and the proximity is still pinging. I just need to add a new function here. Function NPC proximity ping. Another Earthbound song, kind of. So if the proximity ping happens again, then what's my IP address? I'm gonna keep that one to myself. Thank you very much. But good question. If the proximity ping happens, val. We're gonna do the same thing as prop, which again, this is redundant. I don't like that I have to. Yeah, this is not good. I'm basically copying and pasting this function, so I'm gonna have to come up with a new system, and I'm gonna have to think about it too, because I don't like that this function has to exist anywhere that I want to use proximity. That's bad. That's not good. So that's fine. For now, let's at least put this in here so that we can move along. Can I turn on a Hollow Knight soundtrack, please? No, I don't have any Hollow Knight music in this playlist because I don't know what Team Cherry's policies are with using their music in videos and streaming. I assume that they're fine with it. I assume that they have no problem with it. But at the same time, I don't know that for sure. And Nintendo is a big company, and I know what their policies are. So I don't know. I probably should just give it a shot. I really do like the Hollow Knight soundtrack. Let's fix this. So NPC prop. Oh, whoops. So 348. So we're gonna test this out. If not self dot proximity, then self dot proximity. Oh shoot, I forgot. We can't call it proximity, I have to call it prox. I have to fix this. So I forgot I have two different versions. I have prox and proximity. And they do have to be distinct because proximity is like the data that gets passed by the creator or the mod creator, and prox is like the internal data, what the code uses, and I'm trying to keep those separate. So rather than calling it proximity, I'm going to call this one prox, and then I'm going to give it a proximity table, and this is where you keep things like what I had in prop. So we can test the NPC with the exact same stuff. And these are values I would want to adjust on a per NPC basis. So it's good that it's adjustable. Shade cloak. If I'm being honest, I actually didn't realize it was the shade cloak item from Hollow Knight either. It's just now occurring to me as well. that makes sense. I do like that item. It's a really big upgrade once you get it. You can have like iframes. Update NPC 226. Oh, whoops. There we go. How long have I been doing game dev? Since I was a kid, because I started with Game Maker when I was a kid, and since then I've just been trying out all sorts of different stuff, so I've been doing it a long time. Okay, the proximity is still pinging on this guy, but it's not showing his text box still, so let's figure out what's going on. Oh, I'm not calling... Am I not calling this? Draw after. Draw after. Oh! This is even worse. So, draw after, this is just drawn at the end. I'm gonna call this draw later. So, NPC already had this draw after function, but it wasn't draw after, it was draw later. Draw later in the life of the camera, so we're gonna make a new function. NPCs : draw after. This is stupid. I'm not happy with how I'm doing this. I'm gonna have to make a new class that manages these things better. But for now, it's okay. We can get rid of this. And then we can get rid of this. And then I need to call this down and draw at the very bottom. Wait. It was calling it. Did I just put this here? Oh, that's strange. I don't know. Oh, wait. I forgot where it was. So that one's draw later, and this one at the bottom is draw after. There we go. Okay, so I think this is gonna work. It still did not. So I keep saying that the ping works. So you can see that it's getting the ping whenever I get close to the guy. So it's getting to this part in the code, it's just not drawing it. After draw. If self.text bubble. Text bubble draw. Proximity ping. If not self.prox, there should be a... I don't actually know if it's getting here. Print message. So I have the print thing up, and I'm gonna check and see if it's actually communicating with that. It's not. It's not. So it pinged it, but it didn't pass the string like I was hoping it would. So something is actually kind of wrong here. It's not reaching this point in the code. Self-to-proximity.message. Did I apply this? I thought I did. Yeah. It's right here. So I don't think it's even reaching if val. Oh, you know what? No, that should be fine. Text bubble is the parent being set properly. Oh, it's not. It's not. It's not. It's not. So I need to say parent equals self. I don't know if I can do that. I'll try. I think I can. It still didn't work. Oh, I'm sorry, I covered up the chat again. Oh, I'm kind of struggling a little bit. And really, like, part of the struggle is that I know I'm gonna have to rewrite this code anyway because I really don't like how forced in it is. I had to hard code this proximity ping thing into every instance. It's so dumb. It's not very good. I'm not very happy with how I'm doing it for NPC. I am happy with how I'm doing it for the signpost. So actually, I'm gonna go ahead and undo all of the NPC progress I made because I'm not happy with it. It just isn't good. And same with draw. We're gonna get rid of draw after. And then with NPC draw later. This is off. This is draw after. So I'm not a fan with having to make new functions anytime I want to use that thing. Instead, I'm just gonna have to think of something different. Some kind of like overseeing controller or global table or something like that. Am I still single? Yeah, I am. If doesn't enter on something with val or no. I mean, it will. It'll pass the value. You change your profile picture. Nice, cool. It's kind of my volume is low. I think that it would help if I turn the volume of my music down because the songs that play, it's like a hodgepodge of different songs and they vary in different they're different volumes. Some are really loud and some are quiet, and I have to keep looking back at the levels, the audio levels, to make sure that it's not too like overbearing. Because I'm with you. It's really annoying when you can't hear someone speaking as well. But if anyone else agrees that I'm still too quiet, I can try and turn it up. But looking at the values, the decimal levels, it looks pretty good. Upload beginner to advanced Lua course. I mean, the Lua beginner video on my channel is a good start. But yeah, there's probably more I could do. I would love to make a follow-up video to that Lua tutorial just because there's a lot more I could talk about, especially with tables. There's so many different really cool tricks you can do with tables that make it so... I really like Lua a lot, but it mostly comes down to my familiarity with it. I'm so familiar with Lua that it just makes a lot of sense to me, and that's why like it just works. At my level of experience, do I ever use ChatGPT to debug? I don't use it to debug, but I use it to write specific scripts if I don't really, I don't know, if it's something complex or time-consuming or tedious. Here's my answer. I use ChatGPT or GitHub Copilot for anything that's tedious. If it's code that is tedious to write or time-consuming, it's not fun, it's something that a computer could do and they'll do it better than a human can do, then that's when I use ChatGPT. And I have a perfect example that I was telling my dad about this the other day, where this text box. Look at the shape of this text box. It's not a rectangle. It's a rectangle with rounded corners. So the question is, how did I draw this rectangle with rounded corners? Because as far as I know, Lua doesn't have that built in, or Love2D doesn't have that built in, to draw a rectangle with rounded corners. It has a draw rectangle, but not with rounded corners. So if I go over to utilities, I asked ChatGPT to write a function to draw a rounded rectangle. So I specifically queried, I was probably either ChatGPT or Copilot, I can't remember which, but I asked them specifically, please write a Lua function that can output a, well, actually, it's not drawing the rounded rectangle. Actually, it is. It's calling the love.graphics.rectangle function, so it is. And it's also calling the arc calls. So this is just a lot of like complicated computery math to draw a rounded rectangle, and I could have written this myself. I do know how all this works, and I could have figured it out. I could have figured out how to draw a rounded rectangle myself, but it would have been complex. It would have taken me a while to do this. It would have taken I don't know. It would have taken several hours, and then probably a few more hours of debugging and testing it to make sure everything works, and who knows. So this is a situation where using AI to help with code writing is perfect, because this is just like an objectively correct way to do this. And if I were to have done this myself, it would have just been time consuming. Now, the benefit of doing it myself, though, is that I would have learned from the experience. I would have learned how to properly do this in an efficient and timely way. And if you're a beginner, that's why I find ChatGPT and AI to be so harmful, because I robbed myself of the benefit of learning about this. I could have stretched my math muscles. I could have gained some experience from spending time writing this. But I chose to go the easy route and avoid the challenge altogether. And as a result, I was able to get this function a lot faster. But the downside is that I didn't learn anything from doing it. I didn't learn anything at all. And beginners need to be learning constantly. If you're not learning constantly, then it's not going to work out. Love the Aura soundtrack. I think I prefer every Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire track over the original, just because the original has such archaic mid-eye instruments, like the trumpets. They're very iconic. I do like them, but they sound old school and a bit too grating. The instrumentation on the Aura soundtrack is so soft and so nice. I really like the soundtrack a lot. It's a really good remake. But the game itself is too easy. I wish they would have made Oros a little bit more challenging and more content. Even seniors should pull back from AI when learning. I totally agree. And because if you're not learning, if you're not improving your skills over time, then you're going to stagnate. And even experienced people need to like progress their skills. How long am I going to be streaming for? Another 8 minutes. I go until 2 p.m. CT. Oh, and that reminds me. I think I want to start streaming 2 hours sooner. Now, Wolf, by the way, is that really early for you? I should probably talk about this off stream, but I'm considering doing 10 a.m. CT to noon CT, because that's just a more universal time. I'm getting a lot of messages from people in India and the surrounding time zones that are saying that the stream is just too late, and I'm with you. I can just wake up earlier. I don't want to ask you to wake up earlier, so it's something I'm considering. Yeah, very early. I understand that for some people it's very early. It's just that right now, I'm streaming at like 1 a.m. India time, and that's unpleasant. And 8 a.m. is unpleasant a little bit for some people, but you know, it's way less unpleasant to stream at 8 a.m. compared to 1 a.m. So I want to be as inclusive as possible, and I have the flexibility on my end to stream whenever I want to, and even though this time is more convenient for me, it could be more convenient for other people, and I think that's kind of what I want to shoot for. What about in Europe? Europe is 8 hours or so, 7 hours ahead of the US, so if I started streaming at 10 a.m. my time, that would be 5 p.m. Europe, roughly, you know, give or take it. So I think it's a pretty good time overall for everyone. And you know, YouTube, I think YouTube streaming has a big audience in the Asia countries in that area. So it would be strange for me to stream later in the day when those countries are sleeping if there's a bigger audience in those places. I'm just starting to think I'm moving too slow. Why? There's you are going to be moving very slowly at first. That's totally for sure. Because when you're going into something brand new, you're starting from the bare bones basics, and yeah, it's not very fun to, you know, do things that are boring and simple and kind of tedious. It is tedious. It's tedious going through the early phases. It's kind of like learning a new instrument. If you're learning piano for the first time, or guitar, I play guitar. So if you're learning guitar for the first time, like your first step is to play one note and then like practice one note at a time. And it's so boring. You have to spend months practicing scales, and it's so boring. It's not fun at all. And it does feel like you're moving very slowly during that whole process, but eventually you reach the point where you can play a chord and it sounds really nice, and then you can play a couple chords and it sounds really good, and that's where it starts to get a little bit more fun at that point. And it sounds like right now you're at the point where it's like super tedious and slow, and I'm totally with you. It is unpleasant at first because you just don't know what you're doing yet, and it's so slow paced that it's just not an enjoyable experience, and you have to power through that phase of like, it's not fun, but I'm learning, and I'm gonna put in my hours. I'm gonna do an hour a day of practice, and even though it's slow paced, you'll overcome those hurdles over time, and that's when it gets a lot more fun. Because everyone likes doing things that they're good at. No one likes doing things that they're bad at. Your favorite YouTuber is a small little YouTuber called Chalacate? Oh, well, I'm so flattered. That's so sweet. Why is it so hot in spring? It's really hot here. In where I'm at in Illinois, it's above 80 today, I think. 80 degrees Fahrenheit, by the way. Why do I only stream on Mondays? It's just because I think the Moonshire Monday name is funny. I do it because it's funny. I do most things because it's funny. So thank you. I just got into Lua and Pattern Gen. So fun. Awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, Lua has a lot of applications, and a lot of people come to my channel with different intentions, because a lot of people come in for Love2D, or they're wanting to learn Roblox because that uses Lua as well. And then there's people that use Lua for like the data side or practical projects or web-based stuff. There's so much practical use for it. It's awesome. I really do like it. It's like 20 Celsius right now. I'm gonna be honest, Wolf. I don't even know what that means. I'm sorry. I really should learn. I did at one point when I worked at Microsoft. Most of the people that I worked with were international, and they spoke in Celsius, or they worked with Celsius more than they worked with Fahrenheit. So I at the time I was pretty good at converting it in my head, but now it's been so long that I forgot the conversion, or what the general appropriate like estimate is for each of them. Lua can be used to script a sprite. I didn't know that. That's cool. Have I seen the new Replicube game? No, I haven't heard of that. It's like 9/5 plus 32. That sounds about right. I remember that. I remember that, yeah. I used to like my content now that I said I use Fahrenheit instead of Celsius. I mean, I feel ya. I also consider the ground floor the first floor. Is that crazy? I talked about that before too, where in Europe they consider the ground floor, but in the US we call the ground floor the first floor, and if you go up the steps you're on the second floor. And I know that's kind of weird to some folks, but that's how we do it here in the States. We're kind of kooky. We're a little bit weird, but I like it. What's my favorite video game? It's Elden Ring. I really like Elden Ring. That's kind of a basic bro answer, but I really like it. Am I an American? Yeah, I live in the US and I was born here. It's sick how you write functions to recreate voxel images. Each voxel has the XYZ value, and your code is to return the value of the color. I mean, that's basically what I'm doing. Are you talking about the shader code? Because in the shader code, that's kind of what I'm doing, where it goes through every pixel. In this case, it's pixels, but you're talking about voxels. It's the same idea. Yeah, the way this works is the shader code always applies to each pixel of the image, and it probably in a 3D engine as well. It's just that, you know, like you said, there's a voxel property. If you're going, yeah, you just do the same process except in 3 dimensions rather than 2. Allfather, hi, welcome in. I'm glad you're able to make it in. I am ending stream soon, but I'm glad you're able to stop in. You just posted suggestions? Awesome. Oh, no, the Replicube game. I keep seeing the word Replicube, and I'm like, I'm trying to read that word. How are we doing? Doing good. We worked on some text box stuff today. So I have this signpost, and when you walk up to it, it like automatically reads the sign. I could probably make it a little bit cleaner. One thing I want to add is make it so the text bubble like pops upward a little bit, because right now it just pops in instantly, like in place. But I could make it so it fades in, or like it like tweens upwards a little bit. I think that would be nice, because right now it does kind of like pop in immediately. But yeah, at the end of the day, I wasn't able to get the, I wanted to do the same proximity thing on the NPCs, but at the end of the day, I wasn't able to get it done. Plus, I want to do it the right way, and I started implementing it with the NPCs, but I think I need to think about it a little bit more. The way I did it with the signpost is perfect. I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's really clean. And like I was saying before, I want to make it so that this text box code is fully open source, because I'm really proud of it. I think it would be helpful to a lot of people. Why you started a game with Lua instead of Unity or Godot? Just because when I was researching the different engines and languages out there, the different options for me to use, I tried out Love2D and I really liked it. And that's the only reason. I just tried out Love2D and it was my favorite one. And that's still my opinion in general, is that people should use the engine or framework that they like the best, because they all can be used to make good games. You can look up the list of games made in any particular engine, and you'll see that there's tons of them. There's lots of really, really good ones. So that should be proof in itself that it doesn't really matter. You could say you love it. Oh, I absolutely love. I absolutely do. Reading the sign. Such wise words, I know. Real, I like Love2D because I'm a full-time dev, so it feels familiar to me. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Is like, some people look at code like this and it freaks them out, but I really don't see it that way. I see this and I feel right at home. I'm able to see this, and I'm so happy with how familiar it feels to me. And I imagine a lot of like programmers or devs can feel the same way. That being said, there's still times where I get hung up on stuff, or the learning curve is really steep. I get stuck on things quite a bit once in a while. Love2D is getting invited to the luau. That's a crazy thing to say, but I agree. I'm gonna steal it, actually. Invited to the luau. If I ever throw like an in-person event, it's gonna be called the Lua Luau. That's so smart. You hate 3D? I don't hate 3D. It's just I haven't used it yet. I want to use 3D, and I want to use a proper engine for that, so I can get a better familiarity with what it's like. Because a lot of people ask me about the different engines, the different options, and what my opinions are. But yeah, I really have been focused mostly on 2D work. I did 2D games with GameMaker, and I've been doing 2D games with Love2D. I'd say that those are the only two engines/frameworks that I'm super familiar with. Hydrate, thank you. I haven't been hydrating as much as I should have. Hate 3D. I found recently started a small game. Any advice? Yeah, I mean, if you're starting a small game, that's great. If it really is your first your brand new first game, be sure to keep it super simple. Like, people really want to start with something complex, but if you're starting with a small game, that's great. When I say simple, I mean like Pong or Space Invaders, just to get your feet wet, just to get used to it. And after you do that once or twice, spend a month or two getting used to it, then jump into your game idea. Just because jumping into a complex game idea, even if it's not that complex, it can be overwhelming. And the goal is to successfully become a game developer, and overwhelming not how you get there. So just keep it easy. I like how you phrase it. Like, it's a small game. Keep it easy at first and build from there. And then within like a few months, you'll be able to move on to more complicated stuff. It's not going to take very long. So yeah, that's my best advice in general. And I know I say the same thing like every single stream, every single day. It's the same advice, but it's something that has to come up a lot. Oh, Love2D over hate 3D. Wow, I'm sorry that it took me a few different messages to understand what you meant by that, but that actually makes sense. In fact, I feel like I've heard someone say that message before on the Love2D Discord. I think it's a clever idea. But on that note, I think that I'm going to end stream for today because it's been 2 hours and I am ready to take a break. But thank you so much for being here today. I see a lot of folks in chat that have been supporting me. I really appreciate that. Thifona, Adele, Shadecloak, Balal, Celso, Tangible, Addiction, or Addition Addict, that's a great name. Bugsy, Axel, Rotomator, Billy Holmes, Wolf, thank you so much for being here today. I will be back next week, and I will get this chat system fixed. I promise. I'm sad that Sheep Chat was broken today, but it'll be better next time. And I'm looking forward to the next Moonshire Monday. I will see you next week. Oh, and also, plan on having it 2 hours earlier than this week. I'll try to post again to keep people more looped in on the time change. But I do want to start a couple hours earlier just to be more inclusive to other time zones. So we're going to give that a shot next week. And I will see you all then. Thanks, everyone.